In the least surprising news of the week, Tommy Mellott is in fact Project X. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app. Colter Nuanez coming to you through the ESPN MT studio here at the Missoula Broadcasting Company. Tons to get to today, as we always do. We're going to talk to Sam Herder, Hero Sports, get an update on everything that's going on in the offseason around the FCS. Last time he joined us, I wanted to talk all the way around the FCS, and we talked about nothing but Sac State and their potential move to the FBS. I do want to touch on some other stuff, NFL draft and maybe some other just off-season storylines from around the FCS. So that's coming up here in just about 5 minutes. We also have our latest Stanley Cup playoff segment. Jeff Safford, Hayden Smith will be in the studio to break it all down for you. Andrew Houghton has some questions for those guys. So we'll get you an update on what went down in the playoffs in pro hockey over the last week or so. Also have some more listener questions to get to. Please keep on sending them in. 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call it or text it. All guests join us via the Elevated Tax and Accounting phone line. But we've got a lot of inquiries lately, and it's helping push forward. It's helping spur our content. So if you have questions specifically about college football in the state of Montana, Grizz, Bobcats, text us. Let us know your questions, position group questions, transfer questions, state of the program questions. We've had some really good ones this week. Keep it up. We love having you a part of the show. 406-888-1029. We do have a couple questions that have left over from the last couple days, so we'll get to those here before hour number one. Also, earlier this morning, had to record with these guys super early because they are on their way to Austin, Texas for the first round of the NCAA men's tennis tournament, the Grizz men's tennis team. Jason Brown, the head coach, and Duncan McCall, the Big Sky Conference Freshman of the Year, each joined me in studio early this AM. So we'll play that for you at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, and then we'll finish up with a little track and field. Sydney Brewster has risen to become, I would argue, the premier female thrower in the state of Montana right now. She's only a sophomore at Montana State, and earlier this season, she broke a 28-year-old Big Sky Conference record in the shot put. She's been going all the way crazy during these last couple weeks, and that's helped her earn Big Sky Conference Field Athlete of the Week each of the last 2 weeks. So we'll have a conversation with Sydney on the show about 5:30 today. So that's what's coming up. Also, it's a Wednesday. That means we have free wings for you, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. Wing Wednesday every Wednesday here on Nuanez Now, and you're going to get a chance to win a dozen wings to the Despo. So keep that in mind as well. We're going to do that about 4:45. So keep that number in mind. You can call anytime, but don't call now because we're going to go to the Elevated Tax phone line here in just 1 minute to talk to our good buddy Sam Herder. But do keep that number in mind for free wings later on, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. You want to stream the show? You always can, 1029ESPN.com. Also on the ESPN MT app, as well as on our ESPN MT Facebook page, our YouTube page. Any way you can stream it, we got it for you. Appreciate you for tuning in no matter how you're tuning in. And thanks to our great friends at Elevated Tax for their continued support of our phone line, which is where we go right now. Our good buddy Sam Herder, who joins us during this 4 o'clock hour during football season. Well, it's off season, but there is no off season in football. So I wanted to catch up with Sam about a variety of things. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
First of all, last time you were on the show, we went all the way down to the bottom of the Sac State rabbit hole. I think I even made you stay on through a commercial break because we were just going on and on and on about it. And I had a whole bunch of other stuff to talk to you about, and we didn't get to any of it. So just take us through your off-season sort of coverage and also thinking right now. You're always producing great content for Hero Sports. So what sort of things have you been focusing on? It seems like, as with everything in college sports right now, so much is in flux. There's so much mystery, but then there's also just a couple tried and true scenarios. And I think the number one storyline right now in the FCS is how does anybody that isn't the powers that be that have sort of ruled the subdivision over the last handful of years, one who's ruled the subdivision for more than a decade, North Dakota State, but then a couple other primary challengers in South Dakota State, Montana State, to me, the number one storyline in the FCS is how does anybody else that aren't those three schools, or maybe you include a couple others in that group, how do you break into that top 3, top 5, top 6? It seems like it's 6, 7 teams and then everybody else. What do you think of just that dynamic right now in the FCS offseason? And have you seen anything that maybe could predict or predicate movement in that element this offseason across the country?
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the storyline for quite some time is just the top heaviness in the FCS. And really what I always point out too is the top heaviness in the FCS, it did not start in 2021 when James Madison and Sam Houston and Jacksonville State left and all these other teams left. Like the FCS was top heavy in 2017. Like it's been top heavy for a while.
No doubt.
I just think it's exaggerated even more because a lot of these teams that have left, only one of them was really contending for a national title. That was James Madison. Sam Houston rose up that one year during the COVID year. But all these other teams like Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State and, Missouri State, Delaware, none of them were necessarily competing for FCS national titles before moving up to the FBS. But we always looked at them as, okay, if things can click for those football programs, they at least have the potential to an FCS national championship. But now with those teams leaving, like the list of national title contenders, I would actually say has gone up now compared to what it was in 2017 when it was like really 2 teams. Now there's maybe 3, 4, sometimes 5 teams. But as far as the teams below that, as far as the list of teams that have the potential to contend for a national title, that list of teams keeps on dwindling because we're seeing a lot of teams pretty much. I mean, this is not fully their mindset, but some people will ask, why would you go to the FBS and play meaningless bowl games when you can compete for an FCS national championship? And the counter is, well, we weren't competing for FCS national championships anyway.
Right.
So why not go to the FBS and try to make more money? So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but I don't know how anyone really closes the gap on these top teams consistently. Like there's always going to be a team that rises up, like UIW this year, I think would rise up, but then what happens to them next year? Can they consistently stay up? I don't know. Meanwhile, Montana State and Montana, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, they have the tradition, the resources, a little bit of money to put in the players' pockets. They have the ability to reload year after year much better than the rest of the FCS.
Well, that's why I find the Big Sky Conference to be the most fascinating league, only because the Missouri Valley has had the teams that have taken home the trophy for basically every year since 2011, save the 1 year James Madison won the national championship. And there's this sort of a defined hierarchy in the Missouri Valley, and I think North Dakota probably fits in this group that I'm about to talk about. But to me, the 3 teams that maybe do have the ability to compete for national championships that haven't quite. UC Davis was right on the brink of that a year ago. Idaho certainly, I think, could if they took another step forward as a program, but that certainly got a wrench thrown into it with Jason Eck jumping ship and headed to New Mexico. And then, of course, and this is something that gives us so much fodder, and I know it's something that's infinitely frustrating for people that follow the Grizz, but it's Montana. And I think those are the 3 schools that maybe have been right there at the top of the tier that isn't the top tier, knocking on the door. And I think that if there was to be any great disruptor, it's hard to say the Grizz are a disruptor given the power of the program and the tradition and all that sort of stuff. But if there was a team to take a huge jump and somehow get right parallel with Montana State or even jump Montana State and be right there with North Dakota State, it's the Grizz. And they had the year in 2023 where they did that, and then they just sort of fell back down to earth last year. So what do you think about the intrigue about those programs, specifically Montana and Idaho? Because I think those are the 2 that they have all of some of the other things that the powers that be do have in terms of fan base and facilities and stuff like that. It just seems like it's a matter of catching up on the field, specifically in the trenches. So I guess to start with the Grizz, could that be one of the great disruptors this next year if they could just attain and fulfill their full potential?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And when we talk about kind of the top tier of the FCS, we say Montana State and South Dakota State and North Dakota State, and sometimes we put Montana in there as well. But I think that's more of a combination of there has been great on-field success, a national championship appearance run, a couple of quarterfinals and a couple of quarterfinal appearances as well in more recent years. But it's a combination of that and also just the resources and the facilities, the fan base, and you couple all that together. And while Montana has had some more disappointing years, it kind of sprinkled in some successful years like last year and a few years ago as well, losing earlier in the playoffs than maybe expected. I think overall the consistency for Montana is still there, but I think being consistently elite instead of kind of rising up to a quarterfinal level, then second round, and then national championship appearance, and then second round. I think consistently being, frankly, in that semifinal round every year should really be the standard for Montana. Just again, going back to what other teams out there are going to consistently be making that run. There's the other team in Montana, there's North Dakota State, and then there's South Dakota State, and there's really no other team you can point at and say they should consistently be at least in the semifinals. The only other team there is Montana. And I was just pulling up a story I wrote 3 years ago. It said that the headline was 13 FCS programs who can step up their play in the 2020s, which is pretty much talking about what we're talking about now.
Right.
Teams, the FCS being top heavy and who can step up. And the teams I listed were Chattanooga, Delaware, who's now in the FBS, Eastern
right.
Kentucky, who has a nice history, Idaho, McNeese, who has a nice history, Missouri State, who's now FBS, New Hampshire, who is actually an FCS blue blood. They've just really, fallen off the map. North Carolina A&T, Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton State, UC Davis, Villanova, and Youngstown State, who's another blue blood, who's kind of fallen off lately. And I didn't include Montana because I already kind of consider them in the top tier at that time. But those are some teams that have strong history in the FCS that have kind of fallen off recently.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app. Sam Herder, Hero Sports, joining us. He is the senior FCS analyst for Hero Sports and BetMGM. How about the NFL draft? Last year around this time, Sam, we were talking about sort of this dearth of opportunities for guys out of the Big Sky Conference specifically, and also how that had sort of matriculated into other leagues in the FCS, save the Missouri Valley, and so much of that was driven forward by the Dakota States, and so much of it was driven forward by South Dakota State having an all-time great team that had, I think, 7 or 8 guys that got shots in the NFL, which, to put this in perspective for people that don't remember, last year, I think only 4 guys from the Big Sky Conference got opportunities, so twice as many guys from South Dakota State coming out of the 2023 season got shots than the entire Big Sky Conference. This year, you had 3 guys from the Big Sky get drafted. The Missouri Valley had a couple guys get drafted as well. There was plenty of free agent opportunities. So is there a reason for that? Is there anything that you point to that maybe caused more opportunities to be had from these 2 FCS power leagues, or is this just a cyclical sort of way that things move along?
Yeah, I think it's really just the ebbs and flows. It's hard to, because last year was puzzling when you looked at just the low number of Big Sky guys who got opportunities in the NFL. And you look at this year, there's a few draft picks. There's 7 more guys that got I believe UDFA contract deals. And if you include all of the guys who either got drafted, signed a UDFA contract, or got a rookie minicamp invite, that number is right around 20. The last I look at, there might be, there's still guys trickling in, and so that number could go above 20, within the next few days. But that's a stark jump for the Big Sky compared to last year. But I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason. It could just be that particular senior class. Sometimes COVID years help as well to juice up some of the numbers for some other conferences that had, 5th or 6th year guys. So I don't know if there's necessarily any rhyme or reason. I just know that, like, every year around this time, I'm going, man, I don't know how many draft picks the FCS is going to have next year. I just don't know who the top prospects are for next year. I don't know if there's going to be that many. But then, a year later, there's going to be 10, 12, 15 guys that eventually end up getting drafted. And so I do think the FCS overall, while it is, of course, losing a lot of good guys to the FBS, I still think the FCS does a decent job reloading its talent and kind of restocking its talent as far as sending guys to the NFL.
The story from the FCS was the rapid ascension of Gray Zabel. We started hearing about him and talking about him from a draft perspective. Obviously, you and I have known who this guy was for a really long time. He's a great player at North Dakota State, but he's really got some draft buzz going this last fall. And then as North Dakota State made their reascension and won the national championship game, then you have people like yourself and other national outlets talking about some of the top NFL prospects that would play in that national championship game between North Dakota State and Montana State. Zabel, of course, the top of that list as well. And then his stock just went to the stratosphere, and the guy ends up being the number 18 overall pick in the first round. This isn't new for North Dakota State. They've had multiple first-round picks, but most of those guys were the guys that spin the pigskin, not the guys on the offensive front. They've had great offensive linemen too, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if any of them have ever gone in the actual first round. They've had guys go on the first 3 rounds for sure. What'd you think of just Gray Zabel's ascension? And he probably has a little bragging rights as a guy that gets drafted that high from a team that's just developed so many great offensive linemen over the years.
Yeah, he's the highest drafted NDSU offensive lineman, which is pretty crazy to say because they've had guys going back from Billy Turner to Joe Haig and Cordell Volson and Cody Mauk, and I'm probably missing a couple of guys there. But yeah, for him to be the highest drafted guy as far as offensive lineman from NDSU, it's pretty crazy because he was really good in 2023, but he didn't even earn any all-conference accolades 2 seasons ago. And then there was, word that he was getting high-end NIL offers, to 6-figure, if not $1 million offers to transfer to the Power 4. And I think that is maybe when people realize that, okay, maybe he's just good, but he's really, really, really good. And he turned down those NIL offers to stay at NDSU. And I remember tweeting good for the FCS, good for NDSU, good for Gray Zabel to kind of stick to the team that gave him a chance, because I don't know how heavily recruited he was out of high school. And I also said he's most likely going to, get his bag when he gets drafted into the NFL. He doesn't need these NIL deals. And I didn't think he was going to be a first rounder by any means. I thought maybe a day 2 type of guy, but he continued to develop at NDSU, and I think the Bison have shown they can develop offensive linemen as well as anyone in the FCS. And I think if you include Cam Miller, that's now I want to say 14 players drafted from NDSU since 2014. I think 6 of them are offensive linemen. That's actually more than every single Mountain West team, except for 2 teams. And so NDSU's pipeline to the NFL is just as good as a lot of Group of 5 teams.
Do you think that manifests itself? Do you think that because it's happened, it's continuing to happen more for NDSU?
I think that is a part of it. I remember I was at the NFL Combine last year, and I asked Jalen Sundell, who was NDSU. He didn't get drafted last year, but he got an undrafted free agent deal. But he was at the NFL Combine, and I asked him if being from NDSU helps him, partially because of the name recognition, but also because of the scheme NDSU runs. And he says they kind of go hand in hand because NDSU and the type of run blocking they do, the type of verbiage they do, the type of checks they do, and pass blocking, that translates really well to the NFL. So that's a part of it. And so when guys see, or when scouts see an offensive lineman from NDSU, they know that guy is probably going to translate well to the NFL because of the system they run, but also because of the past success of other FCS guys. And so just having NDSU next to your name, I think helps you at the end of the day, your film and your athletic ability. That's ultimately what is going to decide where you go in the NFL draft. But I do think having NDSU next to your name certainly helps these guys.
Sam Herder, Hero Sports, joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app, also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Are there any other storylines that you're following around the FCS? I know we talked about Sac State and their potential move and all the whys and why nots and all that, but from a recruiting perspective, they've been bringing in a whole bunch of talented guys. Just got another highly regarded quarterback who's transferring there from Georgia, who's had multiple stops in his career. So I guess start there. What do you think of just the recruiting push they've been able to make and how they continue to land high-profile prospects there at Sac State?
Yeah, Rashada is the quarterback there that started at, I think it was Arizona State a couple of years ago, then went to Georgia. That was he's now landed at Sacramento State, so that was certainly another splash headline. All these, whether it's On3 or Rivals or, ESPN, they all have these fancy graphics, and it seems like every week there's some type of fancy graphic about Sac State, whether it's a transfer they land or, hiring Shaquille O'Neal for the basketball, teams that kind of be the general manager there to, just so many different things that Sac State continues to grab national headlines. And I certainly think it's fascinating. I certainly think they are capitalizing on all of these headlines and, just really, trying to take advantage of it as much as they can. There's so much hype and momentum behind them that I think they're kind of shooting for the moon, and we'll see if they get to the moon or not. But I think things are trending in the right direction for Sac State to eventually land in the FBS as an independent. And I'm intrigued about that, but I'm almost more so intrigued about this year's team. This year's football team. I don't know if they're going to be playoff eligible if they do get their FBS waiver, but I think just with all the talent they accrue, they could be a really tough team. And I'm looking at that week 1 game at South Dakota State, and I imagine South Dakota State is probably going to be ranked preseason top 5 at that time. And it would not surprise me at all to see Sac State go to Brookings and get a win, partially because of the talent that they have, and also partially just because that system, the go-go offense is really hard to prep for. And for South Dakota State, they're going to have to. I don't know how exactly they're going to watch film. They'll be watching film on UNLV's offense, but they'll also try to get a grasp of all the different players that have come into Sac State. So I really think that could be a tricky game for South Dakota State there.
Any other storylines you've been following around the FCS that are intriguing that you can share with us?
Yeah, it's a lot of miscellaneous stuff right now, whether it is transfer portal, whether it is house settlement stuff. Realignments, William and leaving CAA football to join the Patriot League. And so you look at the CAA, and they've lost in the last few years now 4 of their better programs in James Madison and Delaware to the FBS, and now Richmond and William and Mary to the Patriot League. And so definitely a lot of turnover there in the CAA. So just a lot of miscellaneous items going on right now around the FCS.
Sam Herder here on Hero Sports on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Last thing, what'd you think of some of the Big Sky guys that got drafted? Jackson Slater, no surprise. I was a little surprised I was actually a lot surprised Marcus Ware from Montana State didn't get drafted, and felt proud and happy a couple of Montana boys getting drafted, and Tommy Millot out of Montana State and Junior Bergen out of Montana. What did you think? What did you think of the Big Sky guys that got their name called in this year's draft?
Yeah, the Marcus Ware getting or not getting drafted was definitely a surprise to me. I saw anywhere from 4th to 6th rounds for him, and then for him to not even get an undrafted free agent contract and not even get a little money in his pockets, and kind of have to make his way onto a roster as a minicamp invite. That was even more surprising to me. I have no idea why he didn't even get a UDFA contract. I don't know if there's a medical thing or something in his testing that's scouts didn't like, but. The first film that scouts turn on is against FBS opponents, and where Montana State pretty much made their comeback in that New Mexico game by running right behind Ware. So I don't know what exactly the knock on him was, whether it was film, something medical, something athletic. I have no idea why not only he dropped out of the NFL draft, but also why he didn't even get a contract. So that was definitely a surprise. If you were to ask me 2 months ago, I would have said, yeah, that's definitely a surprise. But just with the momentum behind Millot this last month or so, him getting drafted wasn't too much of a surprise. I thought Elijah Ponder would have had a decent chance to get drafted out of Cal Poly, so that one was a bit of a surprise. Junior Bergen getting drafted, I definitely think was a surprise. I thought he would certainly be a UDFA type of guy. I thought maybe he could be like a Rashid Shaheed from Weber State. He doesn't get drafted, but he signs a really, quote unquote lucrative UDFA contract as a return guy, as a wide receiver. I thought Bergen could kind of carve out a path like that, but for him to hear his name called, I thought was really, really cool and definitely deserved because, one of the best ways to get onto an NFL roster is being dynamic on special teams, and he's as dynamic as it gets when it comes to that area.
We were debating this yesterday because I think that guys like Tommy Millott and Junior Bergen are great examples of how if you stay at your FCS school, put up great numbers, have sweet film, awesome highlights, you're a huge factor in winning. You don't chase the NIL money, but then it comes back around, you get drafted to the NFL draft. That's a great poster. These guys are like poster boys, right, for why you would stay. But then you look at where, and you're thinking, if this guy would have transferred, he'd have way more film against NFL guys. I mean, I think if you went through Marcus Ware's film, it's graded ridiculously high. He was top 5 graded offensive lineman in the country at right tackle as a junior and then right guard as a senior. So 2 positions. He's got position versatility. Those are all things appealing to scouts. But if you're going through his whole career, you probably would have to pick out, I don't know, maybe 5-6 games out of his 30-plus total starts where he went against true NFL talent. So maybe that's a knock. And if he goes and transfers to a Power 4, does that change things? But then the fact that Grace Zabel completely belied all those notions and he gets drafted at number 18 overall, maybe that's not true either. But I thought one of our guests yesterday made a great point. He was talking about how guys with the ball in your hands, you can project that their open field running style, their playmaking ability, their athleticism. They have these measurable numbers like Tommy Millott's 40 time and all Junior Bergen's testing. You could project all that stuff without needing as much film against fellow NFL talent. But then the guys that are on the fronts, maybe you have to have as much film as possible against NFL talents. I don't know. I guess there's my actual last point for you, Sam, is what do you think of that dynamic? The fact that a couple of these guys are poster boys for why you stay, but then a couple others maybe are poster boys for why you leave.
Yeah, it's hard to put everyone into one box because there's examples for everything. I mean, there's we talked about how Zabel could have left to get an NIL bag, but he decided to stay, and we can point at that and say, that's why you stay. That's not, that's why you don't go. But on the flip side, with Marcus Ware, like, had he gone to the FBS, would he have gotten drafted? It's hard to say for sure because actually, if you look at the list of draft picks in the FCS over the last 5-6 years, a lot of them are offensive linemen. So if anything, it says that if you're an offensive lineman in the FCS and you're an All-American, just stay where you're at and continue to develop and to continue to dominate in that scheme that you're comfortable in, or else you run the risk of maybe transferring to the FBS and your film doesn't look as good, or maybe you lose out on a starting spot. So there's examples of guys who have gone from the FCS to the FBS and have definitely improved their NFL draft stock, Scatabo is definitely an example of that, or Jared Verse from Albany, a few years ago. But there are also examples of guys who hurt their draft stock by going to the FBS because if you're an FCS All-American and you put up good stats, that might not get you drafted, but it's going to get you into a bowl game, and or into an all-star game, I should say, and that's really where kind of your NFL draft stock starts to rise is that all-star games. But if you go to the FBS and all of a sudden you go from, a 1,300-yard rusher to all of a sudden you get the ball 50 times in a season and you're the number 3 running back or you're the second-string linebacker, that's not going to get you an all-star game invite. So I think it definitely is a mixed bag of guys improving their draft stock or not. And I think the tough thing right now, and I'll wrap this up soon, that the tough thing now is there's so much NIL money out there with the Power 4 programs that I know for a fact there are multiple FCS guys who are all-conference All-Americans who enter the portal this spring to get a really high NIL bag out of Power 4 school, knowing they're not going to start, knowing they're going to be backups. A lot of spring transfers, a lot of guys that enter the portal in the spring and go to the FBS, they're not going to be starters. They're going to be depth guys, and they know they're going to be depth guys they don't want to be depth guys, but the NIL offers are so huge they can't turn it down. And I know there are multiple guys who turned down pretty decent offers in the winter and said, nope, like I'm good here. I really like it here. I really like my FCS school. But these agents are just ruthless, and they keep on coming back with higher offers and higher offers. And eventually these FCS guys are just, this money is too good to turn down. And even though my number of reps are going to go down significantly, this is money that's going to set me up really well in my life post-football. So I think that's the tough part is some guys are going to the FBS not to raise their draft stock, but because the money is too good to turn down.
Sam, appreciate the insight as always. Love talking ball with you, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for being here today.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder, Hero Sports, FCS Senior Analyst for Hero Sports and BetMGM. You can find him here on Nuanez Now during football season every Wednesday and sporadically during the offseason as well. Appreciate him for always taking some time for us. From football to hockey, what's been going down in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Jeff Safford and Hayden Smith know best. That's next. Keep it right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 103.3. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 103.3.
Mattresser's remodel grand opening event this Saturday, May 3rd. It's all about the five. Five mattresses will be sold for just $5. This is going to be a great event with door prizes, giveaways, free coffee, snacks. Mattresses starting at $199 and buy one, get one free on select mattresses. Savings on all top brands. Mattress Room is going loco and will give away 2 beds for free. Remodeled grand opening event starting at 9 a.m. only this Saturday, May 3rd at 2995 North Reserve Street.
Mattress Firm, where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Multiple Montana football standouts were picked high in the Canadian Football League draft on Tuesday evening. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. Former Grizz receiver Keelan White, a Vancouver native who was touted as one of the top prospects available in the lead-up to the draft, didn't have to wait long to hear his name called. The Ottawa Red Blacks selected White with the 3rd overall pick. White, who finished his Grizz career with 161 catches for 1,862 yards and 14 touchdowns, became the 3rd Montana player ever selected in the CFL draft. However, he didn't have to wait long for company on that list as the BC Lions picked former Grizz defensive end Hayden Harris with the third pick of the second round, number 11 overall. Harris, who has Canadian citizenship through his mother, was a second-team All-Big Sky selection in 2024 after racking up 17 tackles for loss. The former UCLA transfer also signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Buffalo Bills shortly after the NFL draft and will now have both avenues open as he pursues a professional football career. White and Harris joined multiple former Grizz teammates who are signed to play in the CFL next season. Offensive lineman Chris Walker is signed with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, while linebacker Braxton Hill and defensive tackle Alex Gubner are both on the active roster of the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Shout out to my Uncle Donnell, locked up in prison. Throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. And if you like fish and grits and all that pimp shit, everybody let me hear you say, oh yeah. Now throw your hands in the air.
What's up, Montana? Welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app. You can also catch us streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Happy to be with you here on a Wednesday. Andrew Houghton coming to you live from behind the glass here at the ESPN MT studios. And if you're watching us on the ESPN MT app or any of those other streaming platforms, you can see fired up and raring to go in studio. It's our NHL hockey panel, Jeff Safford, Hayden Smith, as we're switching from FCS football talk to the ice. Here's where we stand in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. One of the eight first-round series is final. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the New Jersey Devils 4-1, so the Hurricanes moving on into the second round. All the other series still up for grabs, and we got three really important games tonight, so we're going to talk about all that right here on Nuanez Now. Guys, first of all, thanks for joining us. Good to see you in studio.
Yeah, awesome to be here, Andrew. No, missed some hockey talk last week from my lacrosse travels, but glad to be getting back to face-offs, penalties, hopefully not too many of those. And maybe start things off, the Utah Hockey Club has a new name, or do they? Thinking about that strange headline I saw earlier today.
I was going to ask you guys about the biggest news of the day. Utah Mammoth, is this for real or is it a fake? And what do you guys think about it? This was the leak that the Utah Hockey Club sort of renamed some of their online assets, apparently. The Utah Mammoth. We've been following this saga for years now as the Utah Hockey Club moves from Arizona. Have they finally picked a name?
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, obviously, I think that they're still going to explore some other names. I know the other one that they were looking at was the Outlaws. I think the Yeti was one that they were really looking to get, but I think there were some issues there with the Yeti Cup brand, so I think that one might be out of the picture here. But if it ends up with Mammoth, I'm happy with that name. I actually think that goes well with a lot of the other teams that we got in the league, like Colorado Avalanche, and yeah, kind of going with the trend here.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like definitely an interesting name to rock with. It definitely seems to be kind of, you think Mammoth, you think the mountains, thinking about there is a mountain range in the Sierra Nevada known as, or I should say a mountain called, literally, Mammoth Mountain, a very mountainous area down in Southern California. So you think mountains, I think it fits pretty well. Maybe maybe lean into I talked about this with you earlier, lean into the aesthetic or the thought of that region. Maybe a name like the Wasatch would be cool, but
that's a cool name.
I'm not beefing with that name either.
No, I like the Mammoth. I think they'll do well with that. I think they'll have some pretty cool jerseys and a lot of options in terms of how they're gonna do that. So yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to see how they actually execute it, but I think it's a fun name. So.
We'll see how that moves on into the future of the Utah Hockey Club. Now possibly the Utah Mammoth, but of course UHC not participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. So let's swing it on around And let's start with these games tonight. Montreal and Washington back in the nation's capital at 5 p.m. Capitals trying to close out that series. They're up 3-1. Florida Panthers are up 3-1 on Tampa Bay in the Battle of Florida. They're trying to close out that series at 5:30. And then we have a Game 5, a critical Game 5, because the series between the Winnipeg Jets, the top team in hockey in the regular season, and the St. Louis Blues is tied 2-2, and that'll be the late night game tonight, 7:30 p.m. But let's start off with the first two early games, the Eastern Conference games. Hayden, in your opinion, how many of these series are finishing up tonight? How many teams are clinching?
I think the Panthers and the Lightning are going to go at least one more game. Those guys are just so incredibly competitive right now, and the way that they're playing is, they're just out there trying to kill each other. We've seen 2 or 3 suspensions already in that series. Brandon Hagel goes down in that last game from pretty dirty shot from Ekblad. It kind of looked like just an elbow straight to the head there. But, yeah, so I think Panthers and Lightning will go another one. I'd like to see the Capitals get it done today. I just love following that story with Alexander Ovechkin. I'd love for that magical journey to continue here. And I do think the Capitals get that one done tonight for sure. So,
yeah, I definitely think that I would think the Capitals have a better chance to advance tonight. They're playing on home ice. They've had a lot of momentum. A guy I want to highlight once again from the opposition, Lane Hudson's continued to have an awesome run here in the last couple of games, has had 5 assists so far in the series in a losing effort, looks like, for the Habs. And if Tampa Bay, to me, if they're going to get it done tonight, they have to get something done on their power play. That was something I was talking about with you earlier, Hayden. Man, their power play just hasn't done much of anything. And thinking about a team that really typically puts the puck in the back of the net extremely well, if your power play is searching for it at this point, how much of it becomes a mental thing where you start to thinking about it like a baseball player in a big funk at the plate? It starts to weigh on you. So maybe if they see one power play goal go in, it ignites them. And you mentioned it, Tampa Bay surely will have a bone to pick going out early for this one. So I would think this will be coming out the gates, a real intense, fast-paced, hard-hitting Tampa Bay team looking to send a message. And we'll see if the Rat King and folks like that on the flip side can flip it in their direction. And if they win this one, I wouldn't be shocked, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Game 6 as well. I would think that's where this series ends for Florida in 6 back on home ice.
It's we can't act like the Lightning weren't there just a mere couple years ago. They still have a lot of incredibly good players with the addition of Jake Gensel now, too, who's honestly an underrated player in this league. They have Nikita Kucherov, who's a leading goal scorer and has been, point scorer. And I think he has been for the last 2 years in a row now. So, that's a team that's been there and done it. Vasilevsky's an incredible goalie. He knows how to win games. They still got Hedman out there playing really hard. He might be a little older, but he's a little wiser too. Those guys have been in these situations a lot, and the Lightning aren't just going to simply fade away here, so it's going to be a battle tonight for sure.
Jeff Safford, Hayden Smith in studio with us here talking Stanley Cup playoffs. All of our hockey coverage this summer brought to you by Sportsbet Montana, as well as all of our NBA playoff coverage. Certainly I enjoy talking a little bit of NBA playoffs here on Nuanez Now, as well as all our coverage of the 4 golf majors this summer. Brought to you by Sportsbet Montana. You can find Sportsbet Montana kiosks at bars across the Treasure State. Big thanks to them for sponsoring our hockey talk here on Nuanez Now. All right, guys. That leaves us with the third game tonight, and this is one that's not going to decide a series because Winnipeg and St. Louis are tied at 2-2, but this almost becomes an even more important game than the potential elimination games because if you win Game 5 in a 2-2 series, suddenly you've got a great chance to win the series. So, what does Winnipeg, the number 1 team in the regular season, need to do to take control of this series against this upstart St. Louis Blues team? Jeff, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I think a big part of it will start with a guy that we highlighted as one of the top players in the NHL when we were just getting these postseason or these Stanley Cup playoffs started, thinking about players that could be considered for an MVP type of award. To me, it starts with Connor Hellebuyck. He's struggled, frankly, these last couple of games, and it continues to be a narrative for him in these playoffs, thinking about 10 of his last 14 starts where he's really struggled in net, and his save percentage rate has dipped at around 71% this last couple of games. He's been pulled numerous times. So if you're the Jets, you got to see Hellebuck look like himself, look like a guy that is a world-class goalie in the regular season and just put it together on a stage playing at home, because on the flip side of things, Jordan Binnington has been awesome once again for St. Louis. If you look at his numbers comparatively, when the Blues made a run to the Stanley Cup trophy, Binnington's numbers pretty darn comparable. So that'll be surely a battle to watch. Will Hellebuck be able to take his game up to that next level and match what Binnington is doing? See if Winnipeg can get it done tonight on home ice to take a 3-2 lead.
No doubt. And Hayden, I want to swing it back to you to dive into this question a little bit further, because this isn't the first time, right, that Connor Hellebuck has struggled in the playoffs. I mean, is this... what's different about the Stanley Cup playoffs, particularly for goalies? You hear about hot goalies going on a run and carrying their team deep into the playoffs, and then you hear on the flip side here about the best goalie in the game in the regular season struggling through the first couple games of this series. What's different about the playoff ice, the playoff light, the playoff pressure?
You know, the thing about Winnipeg is they have underperformed kind of like Toronto the last few years, right? And as you continue to do that, I think the pressure just continues to build. Last year, they were an incredible team too, and then they go into Colorado, they win a game, I think 7-0, like absolutely destroy them in the first game, and then they just kind of fell apart. It's just, you know, it's playoffs in Canada, and they haven't won a Canadian team has not won a Stanley Cup in over 30 years. I think that does add a little bit additional pressure to that just country in general, and they just want to see a team get it done. It's tough, man. I mean, the playoff hockey is a different beast, and let's not discredit the Blues right now. I mean, that is a team that, you know, it feels similar to the year they won the Stanley Cup. The Blues were out of the playoffs 3 months ago, and then they just went on an absolute tear and, you know, set a franchise record for 12 straight wins in the regular season. So let's not act like this isn't a team that's coming in hot. The other factor to this, too, is that they are riding Jordan Binnington. There was no better thing for Jordan Binnington than that Four Nations playoffs, because since the Four Nations Cup, he has absolutely been on a tear. And that's why I really feel like it's that 2018 looking run, because they got hot at the right time, and you know, you still need to see your offense produce. You know, we can blame Connor Hellebuck for a lot of it, and he really does need to step up. But guys like Kyle Connor, I mean, the hero of the first two games that they won, those guys need to step up as well and put some pucks in the net here on Binnington. So, you know, if you're not going to beat him clean, you got to get some bodies in front of the blue paint there, and you got to just start banging and mashing and seeing if you can get one in here. So stop playing so pretty and just put some pucks on it and see what happens here.
I would say for St. Louis tonight, they would look to begin this game just like how they started Game 3 when they were down 2-0. What did they do? They punched him in the mouth. In the first period, they're up 3-0 right out of bed. If they get something like that here tonight, especially thinking about how you alluded to Hellebuck and this Jets team struggling from a mental standpoint, I would think game over. And if it goes 3-2 back to St. Louis, it might be see you later there as well.
If Winnipeg lets this go back 3-2 to St. Louis with the Blues with the lead, I really don't like how this turns out for them for sure. So we'll have to see what happens tonight. Obviously, a lot of questions here. Connor Hellebuck better step up tonight. That is for sure. So we'll see.
Huge game in that series tonight. Puck drops 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN between the Jets and the Blues. One more question for you guys. Again, we got 3 games tonight. The Washington Capitals looking to put away Montreal in that series. Florida Panthers looking to put away Tampa Bay in that series. And then we just talked about Winnipeg and St. Louis. We got 4 more games tomorrow, and all of these are going to be elimination games as well. Toronto up 3-2 on Ottawa. That game 6 is tomorrow. We've also got the Vegas Golden Knights up 3-2 on the Minnesota Wild, looking to put that series away. We've talked about this Dallas-Colorado series. Dallas is up 3-2 in that series. That game 6 is tomorrow. And then the Kings-Oilers series, which has just been a barn burner. The Edmonton Oilers looking to put that series away. They're up 3-2. Their game 6 tomorrow as well. I think I just want to ask you, give me one series real quick here in each conference that you think is really going to a Game 7, whether that's one of the games that's happening tonight or one of those matchups that we just ran through for tomorrow?
Man, which one's headed to Game 7? Well, if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, you surely hope that it does not go to a Game 7. But from me, a neutral fan's point of view, that to me is so captivating. A team that struggled so mightily in these closeout series games. How about this? The Toronto Maple Leafs have lost 12 of their last 13 closeout games in playoff series where they've had a chance to close it out, win the series. That to me is crazy. And they started up in this thing up 3-0. Yesterday, me and Hayden have been talking about it. Had an ugly turnover on a power play. They had numerous chances to tie the game. Had an ugly turnover trailing 1-0 last night. Led to a 2-on-1 shorthanded goal that pretty much put it away against Ottawa. So they've burned 2 games up 3-0. Will they burn a third on the road? Have it go to Game 7 in the middle of Toronto where it's just a pressure cooker? Just for me, in a mental standpoint, just a fun hockey standpoint, just so many storylines. That's the series I would like to see, a Game 7. I mean, that thing would have just about everything in terms of storylines.
No doubt. And that pretty well covers the Eastern Conference for us because we talked about all those series. So, Hayden, real quick here, give me one of those 3 other series in the West, either Dallas, Colorado, the Vegas, Minnesota series, or the Kings, Oilers series. Just real quick, give me one of those 3 that you think is going to a Game 7 here in the first round.
Yeah. I think that being at home is so important in the playoffs. I believe the record, is 24-10 for the home team here. So I'm going to pick Colorado. They just have too many good players. Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, I think those guys, back to the wall at home. Gabe Landeskog's back. Incredible storylines here. I don't think Colorado loses at home. I think they go back to Game 7 here in Dallas, and they give them a run for their money here for sure. That's going to be a great series. Dallas has been on fire. You finally see Mikko Rantanen put one up on the board. It's going to be a fun one for sure. I can't wait for tomorrow in that game.
Well, if any of these series do go to a Game 7, we'll be talking about it with these guys here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Thanks to Jeff Safford. Thanks to Hayden Smith, our in-house NHL experts. They'll be breaking down the Stanley Cup playoffs for you all summer long. It's brought to you by Sportsbet Montana. Guys, thanks for being here.
Sure thing. Excited to see some exciting Stanley Cup hockey. It's surely a fun time of year.
Got to get out. We'll be back with some track. Sydney Brewster, record-setting thrower for the Montana State women's team, joined Colter Nuanez earlier this week. We got that interview for you on the other side. Back right after this. You are listening to Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Elevator Tax. State University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
What are you drinking?
I think I'll have a 56.
56 Counties American Light Lager. A beer for Montanans and friends of Montanans.
Access to Montana's great backyard is the best part of being a Grizzly.
At the University of Montana, our classrooms are the mountain peaks, river valleys, and never-ending plains of the Big Sky country. We provide students with the hands-on training to protect and enjoy hunting, conservation, and stewardship. UM launches the careers of outdoor leaders so that they can protect our traditions and ensure they are passed down for future generations. Because what's made in Montana is remaking the world.
What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
At the Stone of Accord, our liquor store has an extensive selection of Irish whiskeys, wine, and local spirits. We also have exciting events daily, and our complimentary beverages are always served with a smile. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino. Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
Is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Give me that money.
I did like a triple take when this landed on my desk and then sent it immediately to my wife. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Mattress Firm has their grand reopening on Saturday starting at 9 a.m. And this is the promotion's called All About the Five. This is where I did the triple take. 5 mattresses will be sold for $5. That's right. It's not missing a comma. It's not missing a zero. 5 mattresses for $5. You're going to have to be there early, though. They're going to do this right away, right at 9 a.m. They also have door prizes, giveaways, free coffees, snacks. They have top brands like Purple, Tempur-Pedic, Nectar, IntelliBed, Stearns & Foster, Sealy, American Star. Mattress Firm going loco, giving away 2 beds for free and 5 at $5 a piece. Tommy will be on site broadcasting between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. He'll also be giving away a pair of camp tickets and a pair of Hoosier tickets, plus other Missoula Broadcasting Company swag. So swing by Mattress Firm starting at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. I said yesterday on the way out of the show that I had the Nuggets on the money line and the Pistons on the money line to stay alive. I also had the Pacers to close out the series, and I thought I had each of those money lines individually, but then I thought I had a 3-part parlay with Nuggets, Pistons, and Pacers as winners. I thought I was dead in the water when the Bucks were leading for most of regulation, as it were. Then when the Bucks were up by, I think, 6 or 7 in overtime, I thought, okay, that's fine. That was a flyer anyways. I only had like half a unit on it. And then I'm eating dinner, and I'd stopped watching it. We were broadcasting from the press box yesterday, so I was watching the game, but then I went home, was with the family, so I didn't see the end of the game. Then I checked the score. Holy cow, Indiana rallied and won. That's impactful because it means Indiana's moving on, and they'll play the Cavs. I do think Indiana has a chance against the Cavs. Cleveland's really good. I think Indiana's pretty good. I think Indiana matches up okay. Like I don't know if Indiana's going to win that series, but it's not going to be a sweep. It's going to be way more competitive, obviously, than Cleveland versus Miami, no question. So, got lucky on that one, but I told you about the money lines. Denver and Pistons, I had them standalone, I had them together, and then I had them in that 3-part parlay. So yesterday was a fine evening for me. Tonight, though, a couple teams trying to stave off elimination, especially the Los Angeles Lakers. This is one I certainly have my eyes on. I thought LA was going to roll through this series with the Timberwolves. T-Wolves have pushed them to the brink. They're up 3-1. So will the Lakers extend it? Send it to a Game 6? Can Luka Doncic put on a clinic like he did in the one Lakers win? Or is Anthony Edwards and company going to put the nail in the coffin? I'm leaning Lakers, but man, I think this is a stay away. Honestly, I think that's a tough one. because the T-Wolves just look so tough. In the other series, I have the Warriors to win the series against the Rockets, but I do think that the Rockets will extend it. I think the Rockets will win at home tonight and then push it, and then I think Golden State will have a chance to close out Houston in the Bay in Game 6. So I'm strong on that one. I'm bullish on the Rockets winning tonight. I'm a little bit maybe on the Lakers, but my parlay of the day is I'm just going to go Rockets money line, Lakers money line. I'm only going to put one unit on it. I'm not as confident as I was last night. Last night I put 2 units on each of those individuals and then 2 units on the parlay. So that was fun. Really fun, actually. But this one tonight, just a unit on it, but definitely like it. Sportsbet Montana, proud to present all of our NBA and NHL playoff talk. No matter where you're at in Montana, there's a Sportsbet Montana kiosk near you. You go to the Sportsbet Montana website and click on where to bet. You can also get the Sportsbet Montana app. I'm looking at it right now. That's why I know what the odds are. My odds on my parlay, by the way, those 2 money lines, plus 128. So if you would like to tail me, there you go. Get the Sportsbet Montana app in your life and go find one of those kiosks before the NBA playoffs start tonight. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. Grizz men's tennis, Big Sky Conference champions for the first time in more than a decade. They head to Austin, Texas this weekend to take on the Longhorns of the University of Texas, the number 3 team in the country. We'll talk to Jason Brown, the head coach, plus Duncan McCall, the Big Sky Conference Freshman of the Year, on the other side. Grizz Tennis, ESPN Roundtable. Next, don't change that dial. Keep it right here. 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
free admission.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
1, 2, 3.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
What the hook gon' be, man? See, I don't need no fucking hook on this beat. All I need is the track in the background. My headphones loud, keep the block going around, and I'm gonna come out tomorrow. And I will never got my first car when I turned 16. Only drove it home out of town limousine. Plus we was broke with a deal, but nobody could tell. So we did what we had to do for country grammar to sell. I steal my own melodies. Plus I like my booties and my boobs like a capital.
Remember when those guys came here? Different place, different time, man. Back in the early 2000s, Missoula has always been a place to be, and I hope it always is a place to be, but Missoula was certainly a sight to see back in the early 2000s, no doubt about it. That's Murphy Lee, but it's the St. Lunatics. It's Nelly's group. And it's so funny because now we have such this burgeoning music scene. It's cutting edge. So much of it is like alternative and indie and all that. Back in the day, we used to get just country concerts. Like 90s, it was just country. Every once in a while, you might get a rock and roll act. Then in the early 2000s, somehow there's this tipping point, and we started getting all these hip-hop acts. So when I was in high school, I saw Nelly and the St. Lunatics. I saw 50 Cent. I saw Chingy. Remember Chingy? The Game. Twista. Like, it was so funny just seeing these people come through Montana, but it was awesome. Like, we loved it, and every show was awesome. Everybody would be dancing. They'd be sold out. It's just such a funny fit. I just would love to know what triggered that tipping point, but it was certainly a fun time, and certainly, Missoula's always fun, but that was a really cool time to live here. I very much appreciate the time that the years in terms of the evolution of society and the impact that all these different things, specifically technology, media, social media. I am so glad that I was in high school and college exactly when I was. If it was in the 90s, it would have been even better. But the fact that it was in the 2000s and I was out of college before any of this stuff hit, man, that's beautiful. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Missed anything in the first hour of the show, you can find it on the Nuanez Now podcast. Probably presented by the M Store, where they're all Grizz all the time. The Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day. And Elevated Tax, elevating you and your business with a modern professional touch. Time for our ESPN Roundtable. A couple Big Sky champions in studio earlier today. Our ESPN Roundtable Big Sky Champions Edition. Grizz men's tennis in studio with us. Head coach Jason Brown, his second appearance of the season, good friend of the show, as well as Duncan McCall, who is one of the key factors in Montana winning their first outright conference championship in more than a decade. Guys, congratulations. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Colt. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
First of all, let's start with the here and now because you guys actually had the academic banquet last night. All the scholar athletes from the University of Montana get to go attend this banquet. Anybody that got 3.0 or higher gets to go, and then you get a bunch of awards and stuff like that. You guys got some great awards specifically for your academics, and so I know we make a lot of the sports part of this, and that is a huge part of this, but Coach, you must be pretty proud of the way that your guys get it done in the classroom. This is 8 years in a row that you guys have had the highest GPA on campus among athletes?
Yeah, I think so. The guys take it seriously. They know that this sets them up for success later, and that's a big part of the job is making sure that post tennis career, whenever that is, that they slide into the working world, and I think that they apply themselves, and I think it's fun on that day. Everybody's dressed up and they get the most applause. It's I think it feels pretty good for the guys. Well, Duncan's first one, so
right. So Duncan, you're a freshman. So was that very apparent to you right away, like with how important the academic side is?
Yeah, straight away I felt the energy around that and the standard that we hold as a program for not just the sports side of things, really just everything. So I was dialed in on that straight away. All the other freshies were dialed in on that. We kind of had no choice. So I think it was good, and that's why we win the award.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Coach, take us through the championship match. This was I was watching this, and you went down early after the doubles portion, but then it was just tight all over the place. So from a coaching perspective, first of all, how are you watching this and making sure everybody's doing what they need to be doing? And just tell us about the rally and the way you guys were able to take down Northern Arizona, win the conference championship.
Oh man, I might fill the full 20 minutes.
Let's go.
No. So just the way it's sort of set up down there at the Phoenix Tennis Center, there's 3 courts. There's a 3-court bank and a median and another 3-court bank, and really blessed with an ex-Grizz who was a senior when they won in 2014, Ethan Vaughn, takes 1 3-court bank. So he was down with 1, 2, and 3. He was down there with Duncan a bit, and then I was over with 4, 5, and 6. And you kind of keep tabs, but you also want to stay focused on the courts you're coaching.
Sure,
and that's all you can. Well, coaching barely control, but kind of control what's going on. So, I think that the guys still believed. I think that all 6 guys in singles, we got drummed a bit in dubs. They outplayed us. And that happens. It's only 1 point. Guys, I think all 6 guys believed they could win. And I think it was apparent when they went out on the court. We got 4 first sets. 4 first sets, that puts you in a great position to get through. And then, by the time the match sort of was wrapping up, we were ready to win in 2 spots, not just 1. So that relieved a lot of pressure from Tom. He said, well, I knew if I didn't get through in the spot he did that Duncan and Baltzar had already put points on the board, and then our freshman Moritz Lesjak came out of nowhere, put a point on the board, and Tom really relaxed into the fact that Fernando at number 5 was going to win as well. He was up 5-2 serving in the 3rd set. So we were in a good, I don't want to say pressure-less spot because the pressure was pretty immense, but felt pretty good. But Duncan getting off the court was huge against a kid who really put it to him in the regular season, and it was a good belief by him that he knew he could win.
Duncan McCall, Jason Brown in studio with us. Duncan, the freshman of the year of the Big Sky Conference. So take us through that part. You were actually one of the only guys that was down a set early, and it's against a guy that had beat you pretty good in the regular season, but then you rally back and you dominate the next 2. So how were you able to sort of turn the corner?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting dominated in that first set. I didn't really know what to do, to be honest. I was struggling. I went off took a bathroom break, and there was a lot of stuff going through my head, but I knew I had the ability to beat the guy. I just couldn't find anything in that moment, but it just took a little bit of a momentum switch, and then I knew I was in it. There's always energy around in college, so I just try to use the energy from Balti, use the energy from Tom. I knew everyone was doing well. I knew we could win this, and it became more apparent how important my point was later on when I realized there was 2 all, and there was 3 of us all in the 3rd set. So I knew I needed to win for the team, and I think that just hunger to win is really what got me over the line. I didn't feel like I was hitting the ball amazing, but I just wanted to win so bad for the team. So,
that's awesome. Well, Coach Wood, you get swept basically by Northern Arizona March 16th.
Not basically. We got swept. We got swept with a big broom. That was not a fun drive back down to Phoenix.
But from there to now, I mean, where did you feel like your team turned a corner? Because it seemed like you guys got red hot. It seemed like that might have even been one of the turning points of your season.
The response was great. Honestly, I don't think we ever lost belief. The measure you sort of have that we were looking for was to peak at the end of April.
Sure.
And absolutely best match of the season was in the championship match at the Phoenix Tennis Center on a Saturday morning. So that feels really good from a coaching perspective, but these guys put it on themselves to get better as the season went on, because we would have had a good year, a solid year. It could have been, we could have lost in the semis down there, and it would have been,
still a good year.
I think we still would have set the all-time wins record.
Sure,
we would have had some cool things.
Sure.
Lots of awards throughout the conference. I mean, Duncan's the first freshman of the year we've ever had.
Oh, wow, cool. Good job.
Yeah, in program history. And part of that is he sort of took it on himself to play higher than I like to keep the freshmen down, playing 5-6 if possible.
Sure.
We couldn't deny it because he kept winning, so we had no choice but to play him up high, and that's sort of a good conduit to be the best freshman of the year. Is they definitely look at who's winning and who's playing high, and a freshman playing number 3 I don't think has ever happened in my tenure here. But pretty dynamic that these guys improved so much through April, and then we didn't lose a match. We 7-0, 7-0, 7-0, 4-0 in the quarterfinals at conference, and then we shouldn't have lost a match. We easily could have went 4-0 against Idaho State. Got unlucky to lose one match, but we were finishing it up. It wasn't.
Sure.
So that the momentum was real coming into NAU's in the championship match, and these guys believed. They felt it. We all felt it.
Yep.
you've had some really good teams, but you talked about that last time you were in, just the process of trying to peak at the right time. When it's a tournament scenario like this, and it's a one-bid league, it's just like basketball, right? You got to put together 3 in 3 days or 4 days or whatever it is to go to the NCAA tournament. How was this group able to do that? Did you change anything, just schematically, coaching-wise, or schedule-wise, or anything like that? Or was it just a matter of these guys just raising their level as the season went on?
I would say the majority of it was them raising their level, but I will say, and maybe Duncan can speak to this, although it's his first season, so we scheduled one match a weekend through April. A lot of times we played
back-to-back.
We played so much tennis in February and March.
Sure.
We were gone, I think, 8 or 9 out of 10 weekends in a row, a lot of travel, a lot of tired bodies, and then I think we recharged a little bit. I think that was it. I got really good at having a team peak the second week of March. Which wins you exactly 0 titles. So tried something a little different this year, and probably going to stick with some version of that because the guys were real fresh going into Phoenix, as fresh as you can be after a long college season.
ESPN Roundtable here on Nuanez Now. This is fun. We've been talking about this all week. This is called All About the Five. It's the Mattress Firm grand opening, but it's their re-grand opening. They've been open. They just did a huge remodel. And on Saturday, they're going to be giving away mattresses. They're going to give away 2 for free, and then also they're going to have 5 on sale for $5. That's right, $5 mattresses. You have to get there right away, though. 9 a.m. is when the sale starts. We'll be down there. Missoula Broadcasting. Tommy will be broadcasting live on the trail. We got camp tickets for you. Got Hoosier tickets for you. Go check out All About the Five starting at 9 a.m. Mattress Firm right across the street from Costco and Lowe's. Duncan, if you noticed, he has an accent from New Zealand. So tell us about just year one in America from not even maybe a tennis perspective, just from a lifestyle perspective. What have you thought so far?
There's definitely been some differences, but it's not crazy different. I've been able to relate to the people well, and the food's a little different. Some of the eating cultures are a bit different.
Better or worse?
Probably worse, I would say.
What do you miss? What food do you miss from New Zealand?
I miss the milk a lot, the dairy. The dairy in New Zealand is really good. I have a lot,
So what's wrong with our milk?
It's just doesn't hit the spot the same, man. I don't know.
I've never had New Zealand milk, so maybe I'm missing out. Maybe we need to go to New Zealand.
Our other Kiwi on our team, we always reminisce about the milk.
Interesting. That's funny.
That's one of the first things I'm going to do when I get back.
Amazing. Well, from a tennis perspective, what have you thought just of the competition level in the Big Sky Conference?
Yeah, I mean, college tennis is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger, and the levels, the base level, I think, like the lower conferences, they've really lifted, and I think we've seen that a lot. So it's just been really good to be in an environment where the process of getting better every day is just celebrated. You know, I feel like back home, I live in a small city, in a small country, and sometimes that's not really celebrated. It's kind of like you just go through the motions and do what the rest of your family's done. But it's been good to kind of break the mold a bit and enjoy the journey of coming here.
Well, you mentioned the early recognition of how important academics was for this program, but also how important sports is at the University of Montana. What's it like being a part of that?
It's been really cool. I didn't realize how big the college sports scene is here. I knew it was big, but when we won, we got getting shouts in the airport all the time.
Right.
And that's just not something I'm used to. So I think that's a big reason why I was able to have success this year, because I just really enjoyed that aspect of it and just embraced it, because I never really got to do that before. So it's been really fun, and I just can't wait to keep doing it.
Have you gotten into some of the other sports on campus? Like, have you gone to a football game?
I've gone to a lot of football games.
Nice.
I'm a big basketball guy. I watch a lot of basketball.
Cool.
I play quite a lot of basketball as well.
Oh, nice, cool.
It's been cool to watch that and get behind that as well.
Nice. So football, not really a thing in New Zealand, right? Do you guys play Australian rules football? Is that right?
Some people do.
Some people
I've never really played it.
Right, okay.
Rugby.
Of course, rugby.
In New Zealand, rugby's big.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But basketball is obviously big in New Zealand too. So compare and contrast. What do you think of the American style of basketball, especially when you're watching the college level?
Just freak athletes, guys are just unreal athletes. I mean, my brother plays a lot of basketball, and he came and visited, and he was super impressed with just the athleticism. In terms of the skill level, Australia and New Zealand, they've got some good players, but
no doubt.
they're just the size and strength.
It's the size, right? It's the size and how athletic they are at that size,
level.
right?
It's just it's really impressive. So
yeah, no doubt. Duncan McCall, Jason Brown in studio with us. What have you thought of his transition and the boost he gave you this season?
Yeah, I couldn't be more. I mean, A+++. Like, couldn't be more impressed. Not only with the output, but just the like Duncan talked about, the daily dedications and just getting a little bit better, and we celebrate that. And we're heading in for, I mean, this is the last week of the season effectively, and we're heading in for an individual session this morning.
Yeah,
and,
nice.
You know, I mean, it's going to get a little bit better, you know, and then hopefully take a little break because it's been a grind. But yeah, I think that the guys that I relate the best with and do the best job coaching with are the guys that have to pull back and not push forward. Yeah. And Duncan, we got to pull back once in a while because he wants to work a little too hard and grind a little too much. And yeah, that's what a joy to coach that. Like, hey man, let's take a day off. Let's, you know, it's okay. It's, you know, when his standard is above my standard, it makes it impossible to fail.
Yeah, fun for you as a coach. No, I also got to ask you about Tom Bittner because he had such a great year. Arguably could and should have been the MVP. He got the chance to, though, prove that by playing the MVP and Danny Torres from Northern Arizona. And that was the match that I had on the stream, and that was a really fun match to watch. I mean, like you said last time, this is one of the highest levels of sport that exists in the Big Sky Conference, men's tennis is. And if you didn't know that this was college tennis, or I guess if you know how high of a level college tennis is too, but like this looked like pro tennis. Like these guys looked like professionals playing out there. It was really, really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it is pro tennis.
It is pro tennis.
Yeah,
right? These guys are probably going to be pros.
You know, it's not. You know, if we're talking about baseball or something, it's not the Yankees versus the Red Sox, but it's definitely some AAA ball.
No doubt,
it's up there, and yeah, those guys are fun to watch, and
I mean, Tom plays with so much emotion.
Yeah, he's great, and he played with almost too much for a while. He's such a chill guy off the court too. He's pretty stoic, but yeah, when he gets on the court, he flips the switch in the best way, and yeah, he. Again, stepped up in the most pressure spot. He's talked about it. I think he sort of spoke it into reality, too. He says, hey, pressure comes, I'm relaxed, I back myself, I know I'm there, and it's great for me to have an upperclassman on this squad, for Duncan to kind of see these guys who just back themselves. Not that you don't, but you're getting even better at it, I feel like, as the season goes on.
What's it like for you to watch a guy like Tom taking on the #1 singles job and play it as well as he did all year long?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Every single match, I'm just impressed with how he backs himself in the big moments. Actually, the first time I saw it was when we played Weber State, and we really couldn't lose that match. Like, that would have been a bad match to lose, and he's the best player in the conference, and his opponent was really giving it to him, and he just stayed calm and backed himself. And when I watched that, I just realized that, like, I was okay with us losing like that, and I realized, like, that's the best way to lose, you know. And he just continues to do that, and we always saying to each other in the big moments, if whether I'm playing or he's playing, we're always just telling each other to back ourselves, and I think it's been lingering around in the team pretty well.
Coach, it's been a busy week for you guys. You play all 3 matches last weekend, then you come back on Sunday, and then you have selection Monday, and the banquet last night. And so when do you guys leave for the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think pickup's 4 a.m. tomorrow morning.
There you go.
Off on the 5:40 a.m. Delta flight to Austin through Salt Lake. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind week, but in the best ways. Like I hope I'm this busy every first end of April, first week of May for the rest of my coaching career.
How do you help the guys sort of enjoy it, but then also, I mean, you still do have this big time match on Saturday?
Yeah, I think you can hold both things, and you know we'll get a couple practices in and get the guys ready for the occasion. I think some of that's more important. I'm not going to bust out the tape measure Hoosier style and show them that the baseline's the same distance from the net, but there's a little bit of that. And the cool thing with Big Sky Tennis now, like, Duncan played a pro event over the break and lost a tight match to guys like 300 in the world. Yeah, and so they know the level. These guys, that's the top of Texas's lineup is about that level, about 300 in the world ATP, and so they're not going to get blown away by it. But we all know we have to play our absolute best tennis to compete with these guys, and that's no different than when basketball plays goes to Tennessee or plays at Gonzaga. Like, it's the same. Hey, if you play your very best level and maybe get a little help from them, you never know what might happen.
Grizz Tennis plays Texas, if you haven't heard, in Austin on Saturday. This is the third-seeded Longhorns, but the way they seeded in NCAA, right, is that it's a host site. So they're basically the number 3 team in the country that you're going to play on Saturday, right?
Yeah, and UTR-wise, like the measurement of tennis is like this thing called Universal Tennis Ranking. They're the number 1 team in the nation.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're loaded from top to bottom.
They've had some success lately, right? I mean, they're national runner-up last year. I mean, I think they have like 10 national runner-ups and 2 national championships over the last 20. I mean, they've been as good as it gets, right?
Perennial powerhouse. Yeah. Get a ton of backing. Texas tennis is a big deal down there. They've got a hell of a facility and a great backing. And there's I've heard a rumor Matthew McConaughey might be out at the match.
Wow.
So he's a big UT guy and he's a huge tennis guy. So we'll. All right. We'll see what happens there.
Duncan, did you have any idea about like Texas athletics before you moved to America?
Yeah, I watched a lot of American sports before I came here.
Okay, cool.
I watched a lot of college tennis, so I knew how good Texas was. I watched the final last year when they lost, actually. So I was definitely familiar with it, and I'm just super excited to embrace the challenge of it.
So how do you go about embracing the challenge then? I mean, some could say you could be intimidated by this, but it seems like you guys are really leaning into this and are excited for this opportunity.
Yeah, well, like Coach Brown said, I've played some matches against these guys at this level, and I know that the gap between me and them, it's not large. It's more of a small things that compound over time. So I know if I really take care of what I can do, I can compete, and I'm not here to just play in the big sky. Or once I'm done here, I really want to go pro. I really want to test my limit and see what level I can get to. So if we can get the best team in the big sky competing with the best team in the country, then that's what I really want to do.
Coach, how do you get these guys to sort of embrace that mentality?
Wow. In this case, it's embraced from the moment he set foot. Well, before he even came here, totally. I sort of knew it in the recruiting process, and that's kind of what we're looking for. And it's I'm trying to be like-minded. I mean, my job truly is to figure out how good we can make these guys. And sometimes the ceiling's not as high as we want, and sometimes we don't know how high it can be. And when you're dealing with a kid who's coming off an amazing freshman year, I think the sky's the limit, and we're just going to keep putting the work in and see where we can take it. So yeah, we're grooming him to fill Tom's shoes in a year or two, and
nice.
Challenge for the MVP of the conference and get us back to playing Texas or TCU or Stanford or whoever comes up the next time we win the Big Sky.
Well, I know last time you were in, you said that you really wanted to taste the conference title from a non-regular season perspective, and you've won one as an assistant. You've tasted it from the regular season perspective. Now you have a tournament title. You're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time as the head coach. What did it feel like? Did it feel like how you thought it might?
Yeah, slightly different, honestly. I spoke to a couple of people this week about the idea that success in tennis came for me a little too fast from the coaching side.
Interesting.
Well, I remember telling Chris Nord, I'm like, hey, man, it's my first season helping him. I'm like, he'd been at it 35 years, never won a title. I'm like, Chris, why don't we do this every year? This is really fun.
Right.
And he's like looking at me like I'm crazy. And then my first year as a head coach, things went really well. We lost in the title match, but just had a ton of success as a team.
Right.
I just thought it was super easy. And so, so running 6-7 years of not winning a title and having things not work as smoothly really made me two things. It really it makes me cherish this, but I'm continue to be just shockingly happy for the guys. Like for me, I mean, my wife's still waiting for the season to end and me to clean out the garage. Some things don't change, but just ecstatic. This is a memory these guys will have forever. And Ethan, still talks about the 2014 season and us going down. He talks about it all the time. It's a highlight of his life.
That's awesome.
And we went down and played Oklahoma that year. They were number 2 in the nation, and just sort of the joy emanating through these guys and the culmination of all their hard work over. 1,000 drives to the peak. We overcame a lot. We overcome a lot here with facilities, and I think that sometimes as an underdog, it makes it even better.
No doubt. Duncan, what's it been like to be around these guys and experience this in your first year as a college tennis player?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we managed to win it in my first year. I know hard the guys have been working for. Like when Tommy won, he was so emotional because he's put so much work in for the last 3 seasons to win it. But I know how difficult it is. Just because we won it the first time, I definitely recognize how hard it is, and I kind of crave that feeling. I just want to keep winning, and I think we can create a bit of a dynasty here if we all put it together.
Last thing for you then, Jason. What do you think about the matchup? I mean, obviously it's a tough one, but how do you sort of go let it all hang out on Saturday against Texas?
Yeah, I think not getting overwhelmed by the occasion is going to be big. And I think for some of the guys that'll be fairly easy, and I think some of the guys it's going to be a challenge.
What's the crowd going to be like? Is there going to be like a sizable crowd?
There should be a decent crowd. There's talk of weather, so we might move indoors, which I'm not super sad about. We play a lot of indoor tennis.
Right.
It'd be probably cooler to be outside in their facility.
Totally.
It's actually a double host site. The women are down there as well, and there's going to be a couple of there's actually a couple of regional women's teams that are going to be Boise State and Grand Canyon. So
cool.
Have some relationship with some of their coaches, and we'll go out and probably watch a lot of tennis too, and soak in, some barbecue, some Tex-Mex, some 6th Street, and a lot of tennis, and just try to take it all in. But yeah, as far as once the balls roll out, probably going to be some nerves for a few games, but I think that guys will sort of settle in to just embracing that this is a really cool moment and that we can play tennis with anybody.
You must be super stoked for this.
Yeah, that was the goal at the start of the season. So above all else, above all the individual things, like just going out and competing against the best, one of the best teams in the country, like as a group, is just super exciting. There's nothing really else to be said about it. I just can't wait to get out there. So
well, you guys will never forget it, and certainly soak it in. But appreciate you guys taking some time.
All right, thank you.
Colter, thanks for having us, bud.
Jason Brown, Duncan McCall, Grizz Tennis, the Big Sky Conference champions. They head to Austin, Texas tomorrow morning. Noon Saturday is when they play against the University of Texas in Austin, and we'll have full updates for you on Monday's Nuanez Now. It's been the ESPN Roundtable. We'll catch you on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
At Shields, we're anglers, endlessly seeking and refining techniques. We're hunters and storytellers, because we've been out there. We're experts that put products and gear to the test, so we can share that knowledge with you. At Shields, we understand your outdoor journey and the path you're on, because we walk it too, every step of the way. Shields, right there with you.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
Family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino. At the Stone of Accord, we use the freshest ingredients to create our homemade traditional Irish classics, fresh salads, and creative specials. Come enjoy our warm, family-friendly atmosphere. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
Mattresser's remodeled grand opening event this Saturday, May 3rd. It's all about the five. Five mattresses will be sold for just $5. This is going to be a great event with door prizes, giveaways, free coffee, snacks, mattresses starting at $199, and buy one, get one free on select mattresses. Savings on all top brands. Mattress Firm is going loco and will give away 2 beds for free. Remodeled grand opening event starting at 9 a.m. only this Saturday, May 3rd at 2995 North Reserve Street.
Mattress Firm, where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Multiple Montana football standouts were picked high in the Canadian Football League draft on Tuesday evening. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. Former Grizz receiver Keelan White, a Vancouver native who was touted as one of the top prospects available in the lead-up to the draft, didn't have to wait long to hear his name called. The Ottawa Red Blacks selected White with the 3rd overall pick. White, who finished his Grizz career with 161 catches for 1,862 yards and 14 touchdowns, became the 3rd Montana player ever selected in the CFL draft. However, he didn't have to wait long for company on that list as the BC Lions picked former Grizz defensive end Hayden Harris with the 3rd pick of the 2nd round, number 11 overall. Harris, who has Canadian citizenship through his mother, was a second-team All-Big Sky selection in 2024 after racking up 17 tackles for loss. The former UCLA transfer also signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Buffalo Bills shortly after the NFL draft and will now have both avenues open as he pursues a professional football career. White and Harris joined multiple former Grizz teammates who are signed to play in the CFL next season. Offensive lineman Chris Walker is signed with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, while linebacker Braxton Hill and defensive tackle Alex Gubner are both on the active roster of the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
And now, please rise for the singing of our national anthem. Please don't burn on the grill. It took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. I said, but now we're up in the big leagues. My dirty hits are turned at that. And just as long as we live it, it's lunatics player. It ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm in a St. Louis kind of mood today, I guess. Welcome back to Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. I was thinking about St. Louis the other day because the Blues still a competitive hockey team. Certainly, they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now, and they're knotted with the Jets 2-2 right now in that series. The Cardinals are sorry, Robert Chase, but a shell of themselves. They were such a premier franchise for so long in Major League Baseball, and they just haven't been there lately. That's interesting. And then, of course, the Rams aren't there anymore. They're on the way out the door, and they don't have an NBA team. So just interesting to see the way things ebb and flow when it comes to the mid-sized markets in professional sports. At least they still got the Blues. You have to think that the Cardinals are probably going to get back on track. It's only been a year or two of them not being up to their standard. But you know, I mean, they've won world championships. They've won multiple world championships. They've been perennial playoff powers, and I think sometimes you just have transitions, you know, where, I mean, Albert Pujols doesn't play there anymore. Tony La Russa doesn't manage there anymore. So those are always factors. Enough about baseball, enough about St. Louis. How about one of the standout throwers in the entire country right now? She is only a sophomore at Montana State. She's from Sandy, Oregon, and she broke a 28-year-old conference record a couple weeks ago. She's the back-to-back Big Sky Conference Field Athlete of the Week. Time now for Montana State Minute. We check in with the Bobcat Women's Track and Field program, joined by the Big Sky Conference Field Athlete of the Week the last couple weeks, Sydney Brewster, a shot put thrower and thrower in general there at Montana State. Sydney, thanks for being here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. First of all, take us back a couple weeks. You broke a Big Sky record that has stood since the 1990s, and this record was almost 30 years old by the time you got around to breaking it. A shot put throw of over 54 feet. So take us through it. Like, what went into the throw? And I mean, that just must feel so amazing when you pop a throw like that.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing, especially when you hit it and you know it's going far because you didn't like it didn't feel hard, like it felt easy. And I think it's just been like consistency leading like through the weight room and then the adrenaline of the competition. So I think that really drives adaptation for sure.
That meet, I think the Bobcat women's track team broke something like 5 school records in the span of like 24 hours and a couple of conference records too. So is it, you guys were in California, was it because of elevated competition, or how much, what do you think went into just that awesome day and a half performance you guys had?
I think it was definitely being in a higher competition meet just gives you so much adrenaline and you're able to compete at your best, especially like pushing your teammates throughout, like seeing each other do well. It also just makes you want to do well. So that's good.
I mean, you guys, it seemed like you were feeding off each other's energy too, right? Like one after the other. So, I mean, did you feel that? Did you feel some of your teammates like sort of elevating your performance too?
Oh, very much so. Especially like Emma in the shot put. Like we go back and forth, just like in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. Like that school record went back and forth between us, between like 3 or 4th rows.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's cool you guys have got somebody to drive yourselves forward in your own little group as well. Sydney Brewster joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. You mentioned that it didn't even feel hard when you popped it. When it first came out of your hand, did you know? Like, are you like, oh, okay, I think that's probably my PR right there?
I mean, I honestly didn't feel like my turn felt very smooth. So when I released it, it just felt like a normal throw. But I could definitely tell there was like power behind it because it was an easy save throw. So that was
totally. Well, it's so cool. One of my favorite things to do is watch shot put replays on YouTube and watch the guys when they break the world record. Because like when Ryan Krauser releases the shot, he knows, like immediately he knows, like that is going 70 something feet, and I'm celebrating. I've got a gold medal, so it is cool. Is that rush of adrenaline comparable to anything else, or I mean, is that like your favorite type of rush?
That's probably my favorite type of rush for sure. That or like hitting a big lift in the weight room, but something about shot put, I just love it.
Totally. I mean, you've done discus and weight throw and hammer and all that too. Is shot though the thing that gives you that feeling the most?
Yeah, I would say definitely like pushing through the ball and like feeling that release. Like that's definitely one of my top events for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. When it came to just the way that you've been able to rise so much in that specific event, even though you do have a throws background in a lot of different events, what's been the keys? I mean, what do you think makes you such a elite shot putter, and how have you been able to sort of blossom into, the best in the Big Sky Conference?
I think I've grown a lot as like a shot putter and as a track athlete over the year that I've been at MSU. Like we've changed my turn. If you look back at a video from a year ago, like it is completely different. And I think that just speaks to like how good my coach is and how we can adapt to each other and like learn in certain ways that I'm able to produce this output of like 54 feet. And I think, I don't know, we'll probably reach a 17.5 throw here soon too.
That's awesome. Well, Sydney Brewster joined us. She's a native of Sandy, Oregon, sophomore at Montana State. So, I mean, has that been the biggest adjustment for you to the college level, is just the honing of technique, or what has been the biggest adjustment?
Technique for sure, just like improving every week, every practice. But I think also like the bigger competition. Last year, I didn't have much experience with like big meets or like flying to places to compete. And this year, I think I've gotten it down to like a science, and I'm just like prepared, way more prepared this year than last.
What was some of the factors that led you to Montana State? Because obviously the track program there has been solid for a really long time, but you guys have become, I mean, regionally and potentially nationally elite these last couple of years. So what were sort of the factors that played into you making your way to Bozeman?
Honestly, a very big factor was Coach Allen, which is my throws coach. And I think it's just like the community that's here, it feels like a family, like the track team, and we build like on that every single year. Like we do team dinners, meetings, like we talk as a team, and it grows us closer together, which is really nice.
Well, it leads me right to my next question. I was going to ask you about Jen Allen, who's been a stalwart in the throws world in the Big Sky Conference forever. She herself was one of the great throwers in the history of the league back in the early 2000s, and then has been coaching there at Montana State for, I think, probably pretty close to a decade. So what do you think makes her such a great coach, and how has she specifically helped you just reach new levels?
I think she has a very wide range of knowledge around like each event specifically, and she's able to channel that and learn. She's able to learn how we learn, and then she can like speak to us in terms that we understand and can adapt our turns and everything into that.
Yeah, it seems like she's a great teacher, which is a huge being a great coach, right?
Yeah, she's very communicative too. Like she always goes above and beyond, so that's awesome.
Well, you can definitely see that with all the great throws accomplishments that have been going on at Montana State over the last couple of years, especially on the women's side. So here you are. You're got a couple meets left in Pocatello this upcoming weekend, and then host the Tom Gage Classic there in Bozeman a couple of Fridays from now, and then all of a sudden it's conference championship time. So what are the next steps for these last two regular season meets? What sort of goals do you have, and how can it help you elevate and get yourself right before the conference meet begins?
I think my biggest goals is we're pushing in the weight room right now, and I want to be able to transfer that power into each throwing event specifically. As I'm going to keep dialing up my technique and then get it pretty crisp. And my biggest goal is to make that top flight at regionals. So I have the best chance of with that adrenaline rush and trying to hit my mark for nationals.
Well, it should be very fun to follow. Tons of fun stuff going on in the track and field world all across the state of Montana. Sydney Brewster, Big Sky Conference Athlete of the Week each of the last couple weeks for the Montana State Women's Track and Field program. Sydney, thanks for being here. Good talking to you.
Thank you. You too.
She's on an upward trajectory. That's pretty impressive to break a almost 30-year-old record when you're only a sophomore. This is only her second year of college track. And they have just added so much to her acceleration, her spin, as she went through it there. Totally remade her throwing motion, and she's an outstanding talent. Appreciate Sydney Brewster for joining us on this week's Montana State Minute, probably presented by the Bobcat Collective. You want to learn more about how you can help Montana State navigate the NIL era, visit bobcatcollective.com. We'll talk some NBA about tonight's games and also answer some more listener questions on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 103.3. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 103.3.
Mattresser's remodel grand opening event this Saturday, May 3rd. It's all about the five. Five mattresses will be sold for just $5. This is going to be a great event with door prizes, giveaways, free coffee, snacks, mattresses starting at $199, and buy one, get one free on select mattresses. Savings on all top brands. Mattress Room is going loco and will give away 2 beds for free. Remodeled grand opening event starting at 9 a.m. only this Saturday, May 3rd at 2995 North Reserve Street.
Where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
This station.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula. Talk to me, girl.
Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Missing the show today, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is probably presented by the M Store, where they're all Grizz all the time. The Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day, and elevated tax, elevating you and your business with a modern professional touch. He's done playing, so I don't think this is any sort of a secret to report this, and I also think it's worth mentioning just because I know a lot of people were kind of wondering what was going on. We covered the Grizz Pro Day about a month ago, and several of the Grizz had great numbers, including Nick Osma, who we need to mention, got a minicamp invite from the San Francisco 49ers, excuse me. That was one of the ones we hadn't mentioned yet because that just happened yesterday right after we got off the air. Hayden Harris also went in the second round of the CFL draft, so he's got a choice to make between the Buffalo Bills and if he takes that opportunity up in Canada. But another young man who participated on Pro Day is Aaron Fonts, who's a very talented receiver out of Oxnard, California, and he had a good career for the Grizz. But and he was always known as a burner. Like, he was always known as one of the fastest guys on the Grizz team. Then his Pro Day rolled around, and I kept thinking to myself, man, he just doesn't look very healthy. Like, I've watched this guy for 4 years. I watched him practice. I watched him play. And he just didn't have the same burst as what he normally has had. And his 40 time particularly was a little bit stunning. 4.78 seconds. And you're thinking, man, like, this guy is one of the fastest guys in the Big Sky. How did he run? Why that time? What happened? Well, I saw him at Keelan White's watch party last night, and he had a big boot on his leg, and it turns out he had a Liz Frank fracture, which is like a fracture in your foot. It's not good. It's a bad deal. Our buddy Sammy Akim, who's friends with the show and the contributor to Skyline Sports, he had a similar injury. He said, man, it's terrible. It's painful. It really hurts you. And I asked Aaron, I said, what did you have that during the Pro Day? And he said, yeah, I think I finished her off during the Pro Day, basically. And so it's an explanation. You know, I just wanted to get that out there because I felt bad for the young man that he had to participate in that hurt. And, you know, if you're sitting there wondering why this guy run a 4.78 when he's one of the fastest guys in the conference, well, it makes a little bit more sense. He had a broken foot, so pretty fast for having a broken foot. Either way, I really enjoyed covering him. You know, I know he had a lot of ups and downs, as a lot of college football players do, but that was the coolest part about being there at that watch party yesterday for Keelan White, who, if you missed the news, he was the number 3 overall pick in the CFL draft. Bunch of guys, both current and former players, were there. And it was fun, you know, checking in with them, seeing what's going on. Isaiah Childs, he actually, I heard this from Keelan White's dad. Didn't get a chance to talk to Isaiah, but he's going to go be a high school football coach over in Coeur d'Alene, and that's just a cool deal to see guys' careers carry on. One other note on Grizz football: Clay Oven, who is a Billings Central product, who's going to be a redshirt sophomore for the Grizz. Played a lot on special teams last year. I think if things go according to plan, he could be a guy that's in the linebacker rotation for sure, and maybe even more heavily in the rotation. And though, last night, it was the Grizz Scholar Athlete Banquet, and they call it the Scholar Awards Banquet. And Oven took home one of the prestigious awards of the evening. He took home a couple different scholarships, but he was the co-recipient of the UM President's Award, which is goes to the student athlete at the University of Montana with the highest undergraduate GPA for the previous 2 semesters. So that award was shared by Tom Bittner, who's one of the great tennis players at the university. He's their number 1 singles player. Clay Oven of Billings, and then Adam Schaff, who was a senior on the Grizz men's basketball team this last year. Walk-on guy that made it all the way to the end. And the female presidential scholarship awards went to Grace Hagel and McKenna Strong, each of the softball team, and Lily Meskers of the track and field team. Those are all two-time recipients of the President's Award. And then Bayless Flynn, who's a great soccer player, she also won the award. So worth acknowledging the academics. I think a lot of times we concentrate so heavily on the athletic achievements of these young people, and these are great athletes. That's a cool thing that we have in our community, having so many talented young people. But at the end of the day, I know this is getting skewed every single day by the NIL stuff and all the other weird stuff, but they're students. They're student athletes. What you should be here for is to get a degree. And that's not just here in Missoula. I just mean here in terms of college sports in general. And I just think that acknowledging the academic side, college is hard. I know that it's sort of like, formality is the wrong word, but college is much more accessible than it ever has been in certain ways. It's more expensive too, but it comes with a huge burden of debt. But also, there's just more colleges and more opportunities, and it's more commonplace to go to college, et cetera, right? But college is hard, and if you have to do a whole bunch of other stuff, like if you have to work full time, that's hard. But if you have to be a full time student athlete, and also you're getting it done in the classroom, that's pretty cool. So I think this is a fun awards banquet that the Grizz host every year, and Montana State and everybody else does the same thing, but it's just on the tip of my tongue because that happened last night. Tomorrow, the illustrious return, Rajim Seabrook will be in studio with us. We'll also hear a little snippet from the Chicken Doesn't Know Sports, and we'll also probably have some Grizz lacrosse for you as well with the national tournament on the horizon. We'll see you at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Mattressers remodel grand opening event this Saturday, May 3rd. It's all about the five.